So when we submitted our package, I got this phone call and said, they were all excited because they said, at least somebody's using the money and it looks like you guys need it.
Well, tell them to send us the balance.
I'll ask them. I doubt they do that, but what I think might happen is they may roll that into that cemetery grant that you tried to get a couple years ago. Increase that, but then allow people to still apply for indigent burial through that capital improvement program. But anyways, I wanted to let you know that they've acknowledged that yes,
Okay.
we're going to pass. Machinery equipment, here's the question. And this is, I mentioned in one of the 5 items, do you want to build out the meeting room? And do it right, with audio visual, with cameras to film the events and put it out on the internet, you know, a doorway through the wall to your conference room for your executive sessions, and furniture and furnishings inside. The county said that they would cut the hole in the wall at no expense to us. We don't have to hire a contractor. That was part of the agreement to you know, with the county. But, you know, they're not going to commit to that until we know what you guys want to do. We may not need that much money, but I don't want to underfund it when you guys lay it out about how you would like to have it.
What did we spend $8,000 last year, this year?
Which one are you looking at now? Which one are you talking about?
Well, I think we took other stuff out of there because we had not moved the
that
capital
happens.
yet.
That happens.
Yeah. And Tracy's got all those expenditures, so we can get you a list of that if you want.
No, I'm good, I'm good.
I think we need to clear out the room, set up the space like we do here, take that furniture over, let's do some meetings, let's feel out the space and see what the gremlins are on what we're gonna need to make it work. We can work off that number, but it's probably overkill.
If you get a dais built, which is a little stage with permanent counter space, you're getting into some money. But you don't have to go Taj Mahal. Or you can buy furniture like you're sitting at right now. You know, I don't know. What do you guys want?
That room's not big as this room.
Yeah, it is. Square foot it is.
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
It's just weird how the ceiling,
Oh, okay.
we measured it 4 or 5 times, lasered it. Now the cabinets in the back, the orange cabinets back there in the back,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
if you take those out, you gain another, that is
Couple
deep, it's
feet.
like 2 foot, 2.5 foot.
Okay.
Maury, before that whole construction mess happened, Maury Wyckoff, who used to be the chief building guy, visited the building. I think you guys were there or something.
Yeah.
So he said you don't have to alter the door as long as it's 50 or less in the room. So we don't have to go do any construction on that space other than, would you like a convenience store to go to your executive sessions, or as you've said, unfortunately, Mr. Mann, in this day and age, somebody pull out a gun, you could crawl back into your room.
So,
Or bathrooms.
speaking of a major increase, because we want to raise this area that we're going to sit at, we want to make an elevation increase.
Right, you'd have to make it ADA, so like for Tracy or anybody, you'd have a little ramp up. That would all be designed legally, because you're in an ADA building. But you build it that you can take it out, so it's not permanent to the structure. So if you guys decide to move your offices someday, your meeting equipment can go with you.
We're not in an extreme rush.
Right.
And does not, can we talk to, like we told spaghetti on the wall, is it called CCR up there on Oak Road? The Career Center?
Oh,
I mean, they have
they have a carpentry.
carpentry and they have craftsmen and they're looking for something to do, and
CTC.
CCC, yeah.
Wouldn't that be a nice thing?
So, you know, throw the spaghetti at them and see if they'll take a bite.
So I threw the bigger numbers in there, but you don't have to do that.
You have to keep 8,000 because of 7 and 7, 77,
What'd you say now?
8,000 on property tax.
Oh, back up here, I'm sorry.
And it might be a little bit higher, but I don't.
So what's everybody's vision for that space? Like a Butler Township version of a podium with screens and all that? the idea.
So, just a minute, Jim, on that property tax, you're staying the same, you're not dropping it? That's just-
Right, so that's a
Okay,
$3,000
just-
adjustment we have to make to this current thing at the end. Just keep that in mind as we get to the final balance. Everybody's has given ideas since you decided to move there. I mean, you know, you got the opportunity to do it right because it'll be the same place as long as you stay. So you don't want it to be cheap, but you also don't want to be stupid because your residents get pissed because they don't want their taxpayers' money being
The
so.
ceiling's not that high, how high we can go?
Yeah, you're talking about a foot high on the
Yeah.
dais, just enough to elevate
Two
you a little
steps.
bit. Yep. But they would be ramps so Tracy could get in on either side. And,
Okay, yeah, I'm good with that, yeah.
But there's probably, you know, the company, I talked to a company that did the Board of Elections boardroom. I don't know if you guys have gotten to see it since they remodeled it. Go on your phone tonight or tomorrow, and go onto Google and say Board of Elections Board Office. The firm's out of West Milton, and they custom built them in a room this size, or a room that size. They did a very nice job with their did you train in that room, Tracy? Did you go down there and train in
No,
that
they
room?
have the, is that the one where they have the seats right there, that moved there, the seats on?
No,
Oh, okay.
this is a room that's got the dais up front with
No, I
the
think-
board sit up, the Board of Elections sits there and they televise the meetings. Anyways, it's a very nice room. It's right off the mezzanine around the corner from the board office.
Okay.
Next time you're down there, ask them to tour it, or we all can take a tour. Anyways, they did a very nice job with the decor. Just make it professional, but they only spent about, you know, around 70 or 80,000 to do the whole thing.
Oh, good.
So that's where I kind of come off of those numbers. Again, we're not building the Board of Elections office. So to answer your question, you know, I have a vision, but I don't want to push my vision on anybody. You guys are the ones that have to make that decision. But if you budget it, at least it's there. It can't be spent without you guys saying yes. But you can cut that out and that'd be 50,000 out of the budget.
But it's essentially cabinet and trim work.
That's it?
Job.
So,
Okay.
Go look at City of Oakwood's meeting space. There's some ideas.
you know,
That's
Centerville, they still have church benches in there. So does Montgomery County Commissioners, church benches instead of chairs. But you can't use the room very much for other things, other events if you put church benches in there. But that's an option too. So, next one, this kind of ties into that question I had with you. Do you guys want to think about putting money aside to redo the zoning code? You know, do you get a consultant in here on a part-time basis? I put $10,000 in that category. We've had anybody before, but you don't have to. That's why I put that big asterisk. You guys see that as a just something to talk about. You turn to the next page
This is hiring somebody in salary, so.
if they choose to do that. And like you said, Tracy, you can move the money to the different categories based on whether they're buying the service and not hiring somebody. The code enforcement officer, as you can tell, because you did that move to split Tony 50-50, even though he's full-time now, whatever, we came nowhere near the $25,000 budgeted for him. So I suggest that we cut that line item down to 20. Now comes the code, update. You know, if you don't hire somebody or whatever, or you want to hire somebody or whatever, you've got a budget. And I've done some talking to the different zoning directors that have recently done this in Montgomery County, and they said you'd spend between 35 and 50,000. Some of them spend 100,000 on their reports. You're not going to have that kind of expense here, but you may want some planning to go along with your document for the future. You have no real planning. You have what the MVRPC did for you, which you won the award for, and that's helped a little bit on the planning. But these are long-term decisions, but you need to get at it pretty soon so we don't have very many lawsuits coming along because the zoning code's not completely up to date or applicable to us. So that's why I put those numbers in there. Except for a couple of things like the Blazer of mine is a 50-50 split with the road, and the little white pickup is 50-50, so Tracy, I'll get with you on changing those. Nuisance, because you're gonna be doing almost everything through 2.0 next year, I cut that 5,000 or 6,000 down to 5. What we've been using that fund for, trustees, is our bills to take and haul the junk to what we have to pay the transfer station for the junk. That's where most of that has come from, or if we have to buy plywood to board up a house. Now today, they wanted to board up 1300 Liscombe, which is the white house on the corner that burnt years ago. 2 weeks ago, they used what they had, which was some of the 2x4s left over from the construction project at Calumet. And 5 police cars were there last night. They found a guy in there living in the house again. He broke in. So the road guys came to me today and said, how do we get plywood? I said, well, we don't have an account anymore. I don't have a credit card to give you. So they're asking for board up money. So, that's where that account comes out of. Let's see. Fuel, I did raise that to 2,000 because you don't know what our fuel costs are going to go to during this COVID.
This fuel for, what, the vehicles or
For the vehicles. If we can change that description for for all of us to understand, we can do that too.
So, okay, so I guess I'm asking because it says fuel, but are you wanting to split it? What do you want it to change it
to? Fuel for vehicles.
No,
You
I
know, for road, I mean, for general, they just do vehicles, right?
are you saying for, you want to split for the 2 vehicles, or is it for other, because you have 2 vehicles, right?
Right.
So
I
do you
don't
want a
mind.
Blazer and code enforcement vehicle, or you just want all of them?
I just think it's all one. It's easier.
Well, then fuel, then I know it's just for the vehicles. I didn't know if that might have been something else. Unless the trustees don't know that, maybe.
Well, I think it's fine. If that's okay with you trustees, we just put the word vehicles there, so you know.
So you want to say
I
vehicle
mean, we're
fuel?
already getting into the fine detail with the Wex bill.
Right.
Okay, so we'll just leave it fuel.
I think we're all right.
Okay, so now that you brought the works bill,
Mhm.
I think, Steve, that you and John, or you and whoever has the cards for the vehicle got them mixed up.
You
Because,
mean the cards are mixed up?
yeah, I think you got the cards mixed up for the vehicles because I don't think they don't fill the code enforcement card 4 times a month and you fill yours up 1 time a month. You might want to look at that.
Yeah, we will. We will.
You drive your car back and forth home.
Right, and that one says. So it has to be switched, but the card, it says what the car is.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so you're gonna have to check that out, look on your October bill I just sent you and look at it closer,
Okay.
because one says, no way, John only got it 1 time and you had it on the.
Tony and John used the truck
Yeah.
together.
But this last time it was just John's name on it,
Okay.
and then your name was on, for the zoning vehicle 4 times. So that something's mixed up there. And I just got some, and I just picked up some new cards. They just brought me some new cards for the fire department. 62, I guess, Chief must have went through, and did he go through you to get
Yeah.
it?
When
I
we did
just
the
took them
inventory
out.
for all the vehicles, I asked everybody to make sure that they had gas cards for those inventory vehicles. And then Adrian ordered new cards for those that were missing.
So I just gave them to him yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a copy of what the card looks like? Because what we've been doing is
They-
recording the cards in the file.
I can get them. They're 2 gray cards, and the white cards are no good.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so,
So you want me to get copies of those?
if you don't mind. Contracted services, that's if you've got to hire a contractor to do anything in the general fund area. Don't know what that is, but we need some money there so you can actually contract somebody. Zoning director, 32 is what we had for John, but 25 is about where his activity is. So I want to lower that 32 to 25.
What about his extra hours working on the zoning update?
Still included in that?
Okay.
He's only been putting like 7 hours a week
Right.
on the average.
He's, you know, it's worked for everybody, him being a contractor. But, you know, we have to judge that every year. Operating supplies, just bump it up to 3,000. And I think Tracy and I do a little better job, or me, and do a little better job that, you know, I think we've taken office supplies out of that account sometime. And I kind of, you know, want to try to find out what our actual office supplies cost are by itself. Zoning software, I bumped it to 2,500 just in case we have an increase with Zone Pro, or iWorks, Zone Pro's the old company. And then stormwater. You guys have read all my reports where they've made inspections and they're coming back in December for the yearly inspection. They inspected last year and gave a whole lot list of things that we were recommending to do and that wasn't addressed, like buying spill buckets with pigs. And, well, you know, Mike, this is your specialty. This is down your alley.
When do you take care of that?
So we had 13 last year just for the licensing, even though we didn't use it all. I still don't think that 2464 is right, but I might be wrong. We need a little extra money in that account to go buy the pigs and whatever we got to do. So that's the only reason why I bumped it up to 16. If we find that that's too much, we'll come back and lower it.
That's good.
So if you look at the last page, there is a $3,000 deduction from this, but that we talked about. But without it, if you don't do the zoning project sometime and you don't put it in the budget, the number that you come up with the budget is $517,474 versus what was projected at $555,143.74 last year. If you decide to put it in, then your yearly budget appropriated, not spent, would be $567,400.74, which is about a $12,000 increase from a year ago. If you take 3% of that, let's just say you spent all the 555, but you didn't. Let's just say you did. You appropriate that. I was trying to do the percentage increase if you went for all of it. But you have to deduct the 3,000 that we talked about. So on each of those figures, you're looking at 514,474, or you're looking at 564,474. And as we talked either last, I can't remember, the road meeting or this one, you can tell that we didn't spend all the money because you ended up with you spent it 149,000 projected. So, but this is money appropriated. And I think you said that too, Tracy, we appropriate, but we don't spend it, all of it. Just because we're not putting any money away. What I was trying to suggest to you in all the departments is to, and fire's done it already, down here to, you know, on that one spreadsheet, but put a little bit of money away, and then the temptation isn't there to spend it. Or accidentally get spent, or however you want to call it. That's up to you guys. But you got to build some kind of savings account for each of your departments for that one bad day. So I don't, you know, if you guys want to do that, that would, you know, we would take money out of one of the accounts or all the certain accounts and put a line item in that says capital improvements, like the fire department did in their budget. We haven't set up for all three.
Yes, the general fund is 4403 and the road's 4402.
So before we, you know, bring a final budget to please come up with the ideas that you want. And Tracy and I can plug and chug. And we'll do the same thing for road, same thing for fire, and try to get to where we need to be for what we call a final draft with the percentage splits sheet, split all bills. And then you guys have to decide if you want to do that salary distribution, allocation. If not, we gotta go back to all 3 spreadsheets and change the spreadsheets.
Right now, the road's based on the last year's, and I guess yours is based on.
Yeah, because I was afraid of jumping out there. Here, I think I feel very comfortable with the general, whether you, no matter what you decide.
There's still a lot of calculation that's gotta be done, like with the, once we do get that salary, then we gotta calculate OPERS and all those numbers, we gotta calculate Bureau workers' comp. I guess I kinda got that with the number. So, but there's numbers we still gotta calculate to put in here.
Yeah, it'll alter it. Plus, like you said, the calculations on the splits, we don't have that labor charge to be able to do workers' comp and all that stuff officially yet. But, I mean, you can always say, we need a general fund levy, but I think all of you have said that ever since you got involved in this place. But how you pass it and how you get the people to pass it with some of the negative situations that you guys talked about last night.
But we have to look at it, yeah, we understand we probably won't pass it, but we gotta work on, I mean, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, there's some issues, but you gotta explain it so they will buy it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta say, we need this and this is why. Not we need, well, I told you this before, the last time we did it, you don't wanna say, because everybody thinks the general fund is for just to pay the salaries.
Right.
You have to take that out and say that's not what the general fund. And I heard you guys, you and Tony in the hall the other day talking about nuisance property or something, code enforcement something. That may be something that you can focus on. Don't focus on salaries. Even though that is part of it, it's not everything. There's a lot of things the general fund. You have to explain that the general fund is also an umbrella fund. If by chance those other levies don't cover some stuff that the citizen needs, that general fund needs to have a cushion to cover those shortfalls of all those other funds.
Well, it's just like when we're gonna go over the sheriff now, and you're gonna see that the money's running out versus what the contract was signed. And so if some reason our collections are below what their contract is, you gotta come up with the extra money because you can't just say, I'm not paying your contract. So you gotta have that safety back, Tracy, you're right. The other thing you guys are seeing with that 2.0 land bank program, how because you had the money, even though it was grant money from CDBG, how you could match 107,000 to get 107,000. So now you got 214 going out there to tear down homes. If you don't have that money in the bank, you aren't going to be able to get those grants, or if you do, you only can afford a minimum amount to match. Now remember, the last time you ran the levy, we lost by 6 votes. That was unbelievable that we got that close. So, you know, I think with COVID, I don't know anybody, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know anybody that was in their right mind that would have run a levy during COVID. That's up to you guys, but you're going to have to run it sometime. Sometime it's going to have to be run. Or otherwise, you know, you're not going to be able to clean up the neighborhood with much else. But your last levy was 219 that you asked the voters for the fire department. So. All right, so let's go over the police. In your packet, you have I gave you a copy of what the projections were of their needs in 19, 20, 21, and 22. And so, and I have a copy of the contract here, but anyway, so when you look at what they projected on the spreadsheet here, if you look down at the bottom, I hand wrote it because it was blacked out when I ran the copy, so I apologize that it's not, you can't read that in the box, but that's what those numbers are. Last year, they were to charge us, if they did everything, at $862,253. The next year, it jumped to $905, which was this year, because we had a full year of the full-time officer working what I call the second shift, they call it third. They bought your first police cruiser that was required to be bought every other year. It had not been bought by the township for at least 6 years. So the county sheriff was buying the cars and putting them out here. But your contract called for you to buy the car and own it. So that's why you have a higher expense. Now, if you look down the last year, you know, it's a little less, because the car has amortized and you haven't bought you know, they haven't bought data equipment. But it's 949, 714. If you look at the revenue report, you're generating by levy only 871, 657. So if they spend every dollar on every line item like they say they will on this projection, do you see where we have a problem? We're only bringing in 871, 657, and our contract is from 900,000 and above. Right. Now, all your levies are fixed, so when we did get all those levies, we got them passed permanent. That's a good thing. The only thing that saves you every year is they do that audit, where they audit their own services, and then they give you a refund check back based on what you paid them, but they didn't give you the service. The refund check, Tracy, it was about 2 years ago, it was 123,000, but I think last year it was only about 17,000 or something like that.
No, it wasn't even that. That
Lower
was
than
that
that.
check that was in your mailbox.
Yeah.
And so,
$7,000 check, $6,000.
Something like that.
something like that. Now, what hit us in the pants for that year was we had to pay for the biker's funeral. We got charged through the contract for all that time and labor of all their staff.
Yeah.
But that was like 10 grand?
No.
Go down.
Well, Tracy, you remember, it was in the
I'd have to
18 or
look.
20, 26, it might have been. So we started hammering on the door of trying to get the county to help us make the fairgrounds, make their promoters or their renters have to sign a contract to get a permit to be able to have an event over there. So we could require the promoter to pay the fees if they incur police expenses. Because that could be crazy. They could have events every weekend, which you want them to have, but you might have expense for police over there every single event, and we're stuck with the bill. That's kind of like Mike, you and I talk about the indigent burial. You don't know when it's going to happen. So that's partly why we only got a,
Was that the outlaw funeral?
yeah,
It was 11,650.
11,000. That wasn't budgeted, and that was one event. So your refunds are up or down, but man, that 123 was very nice because that gave you a cushion. And then when you put that with the revenue coming in from the levy, you were okay. But when I've met with Flag 3 times now. We've met downtown with the auditor lady. You know, we're going to have to do something in either 22 or 23, which is the end of the contract period anyways. We're going to have to look at a levy for police. Or you guys cut back services, meaning you take that other officer that you got this year and ask them to scale that back. But they'll have to explain to you. I don't want to be the one speaking. They'll talk to you about how much the crime statistics of putting somebody there during rush hour period that you didn't have before.
We was a levy the same time the fire was passed for the police, right?
The levies were, yes.
Yeah, and so now evidently we didn't get enough for this contract, so now we have to increase.
You're going to have to do something.
As of, recently, we had 254 in the account, right, 254,000 covered. So what's?
Well, I know where you're going with that. I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
that. Is the bills paid for the year now?
Uh-huh.
So you got November, December paid already?
Mhm.
Okay, well then we got 200 and some.
I mean, to help us out in
Yeah.
21.
Yeah,
But
And then,
like you
and
said,
then you also
come
have
the
a
end of the
lot,
contract, year
Plus you-
22 and 23, we're gonna have issues.
right.
Plus you also have an audit that they'll give you a check, we get a check back. Well, we haven't getting a check back.
Well, that's what I was
What
talking
do you
about.
think? It dropped immensely this past year.
Well, yeah, 100,000.
Yeah.
In 1 year, no notice. The one thing they help you guys with is they cycle you guys know how the sheriff works? They're like
Oh.
military. The guys and the ladies can bid on their job to move to another district. So they move every year. Here seems to be, we have the least expensive, but the newest, youngest officers. That's good and bad. But our salaries are down compared to what these other districts, like Harrison and Washington's huge, because they took all the older guys and got them down at Harrison, or down in Washington. That helps us. But I said, and so did the comptroller at the sheriff, they said, you've got to think about something. Think about putting a levy on in 2 years or 3 years, because you're gonna run it, unless something happens, we're gonna run into that point where you go negative.
We haven't paid for the cameras yet.
We have not yet.
Haven't paid what yet?
The cameras, was there something else?
Signs, there was some kind of signs that
We
were
haven't
gonna buy.
paid for those either. Only thing we paid for is the contract. They didn't bill me yet. He gave me the bills, but he said, just wait until she sends them to you. And so I'm holding them, so I still have
Did we give them a
them.
not to exceed on the camera?
Yeah, you did.
What was that? 10, 12?
Well, I think she's got it, Tracy had it encumbered list. You encumbered it, didn't you, Tracy?
I think it was in there, yeah.
What's on the financial report? I don't know if I brought the right one, I didn't
That
remember.
might include the signs too. I think it was $6,000 for cameras and 4 for signs, or something in there.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, there was one point that just
So
lost my
I
head.
guess what I was saying is that balance could go down.
Yeah.
Right. So, keep that in mind as you think about a general fund levy, the timing of it and spreading things apart by a couple of years for your tax.
Yeah.
So you're not trying to bang them, because it seems like every other group is gonna come out here, the county, every group is talking about banging a levy out right here in the middle of COVID. Combined Health does, because they're gonna say that they don't have enough money to buy masks to help people with COVID, which it may mean sense, but will people vote for that? I don't know. Schools are gonna suffer because the property values are down. You said Trotland, for instance, is gonna struggle, just tornado, now COVID. And we have some of those districts that affect us, they're in some of our territories. So I want you guys, I wanted to draw this to your attention, not because it's something to be scared about today, but just be aware it's reality, that the numbers, the cost of inflation just keeps going up. The only good thing besides this is you weren't buying a car. Now that you buy your car, or you've started buying your cars again by contract, you get to own that car when it's done. Now, it may not be much value,